Now the owners have to decide: am I sticking with Bob Baffert? Am I sticking with the Hall of Famer, the guy that's taking me to the dance? Or am I going to move the horse to another trainer and try and run in the Kentucky Derby and get points for sure?
Okay, after taking a week off, that's my fault for being under the weather. We are back. But that was quick, huh, Chad? We started the show and we went on hiatus for a week. So
Yeah, it sounds about
yeah,
right.
and you're the busy one, but I was the sick one. All right, we are back talking with Chad Summers, of course, as we talk to Thoroughbred Racing here on our program every Monday. Don't forget John Hardoon on our Wednesday shows. How can you not? We've been doing that show for many years. That, by the way, of course, is behind the paywall over at patreon.com/PrimeSN. So we're starting to build our patrons. So there's a select number of patrons who get to see these shows every week. John's picks each week. And by the way, John correctly predicted the winner of the Risen Star. And we're going to get into this in just a bit. That's Epicenter, who's now first in the Kentucky Derby point standings. And we're going to have your poll countdown in just a little bit here, Chad. So I noticed you, as usual, and I'm not surprised, you have some changes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where week to week, there's always going to be changes. At this point now, with Epicenter winning, this is the start of the 50 points. And basically, what the 50-point races, and then finally, as we move on to the last stage, 100-point races, if you win a 50-point race or you win a 100-point race, you're in the Derby. It's almost like winning your conference tournament in college basketball. So Epicenter, in other words, he won the SEC last night, on Saturday. He's advanced. He's guaranteed a spot in the starting gate at this point, so long as he moves forward. Just because you're in doesn't mean you're in, right? Obviously, you got to stay healthy at this stage, right? The Derby is so interesting. You talk about our show, one week on, 1 week off, but that's what this is with these horses. They can't have anything go wrong. And so when you see the top 10 polls and you see all that other stuff, it's truly just a matter of where are we at right now? We can't have anything go wrong. And that's the thing with many of these horses on this list. We have a lot of horses that don't have any points yet. So they need to win their way in. They're diaper dandies, as Dick Vitale likes to say. But they have to prove it now. And now's the time.
Yeah, and I think that the horse has, I believe, 60 points, Epicenter 64 points. So really, since 20 horses could make the field, even if Epicenter doesn't accumulate any more points, what you're saying is as long as the horse is healthy, Epicenter will end up in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, the Mendoza line over the years has ranged somewhere between 30 to 14 points, right? It's the Kentucky Derby. It's what dreams are made of. So you're always going to have a full field of 20. You never have to worry about, somebody not entering as far as not having enough in the race. It's just a matter of who qualifies and when they qualify. And, they used to pick horses. It used to go based on graded earning. They've tried a lot of different things. This way seems like it's been working because it's up to you and the horse now. They're not letting somebody else in, but or something like that. In this situation, you have to get enough points. Now, they don't give you a lot of points for doing well early. You're much more rewarded later on. But now's your chance.
And this is where it really started, was last week.
Correct.
Okay, so the 50-point races.
At this point now, it's up to the connections, both human and equine, to really kind of dial in what is my best chance to get points. And so just like the horse players handicapping, the horsemen and horsewomen are handicapping now as well, to figure out, hey, I got to qualify. What do I have to do to qualify? Where do I have to go? And, you'll start seeing a lot of horses, a lot of jockeys earning some frequent flyer miles to try and qualify.
So that even means like if Epicenter is, let me just type it in here. So because this is a really cool site I'm using here called Horse Racing Nation. and they can see it right as I type it along here. And all I have to do is see. I'll type in his name, and it says here probable stakes tracker would be the Louisiana Derby.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it may not even be a wise wager, because if they know Epicenter is going to already qualify for the Derby, they may not want to push the horse in that race. Correct?
Well, it's
Possible.
all about what you're looking for, right? There's still a lot of money on the line,
Okay.
right? You're talking about $1 million, talking about a Grade 1. It's a stallion making race, so there are other alternatives rather than just winning the Derby to want to win. And the other thing too is the old Uncle Mo, right? Uncle Momentum. You want to go into the Derby with that momentum.
Nice
so
little
even
win
if
streak.
you're not cranked up, you want to be right there. You're not looking to run. To run seventh and
no, that wouldn't be good.
Come back
no.
and come back and you're going to be you're going to be ready. Look, the running in the Kentucky Derby is very, very stressful. It's nerve wracking. It's sleepless nights, and the biggest thing with it is you want to go in there confident, and there's already so much that can go wrong. There's only very little that can go right, and you want to stay on that path as long as you can. But you get to the barn a half hour earlier when you got a horse in the Derby. You're leaving a half hour later. You're studying him. You're watching him in the stall. Is he eating okay? Is he sleeping okay? How's he? Everything is under a microscope. And now with the invention of social media, not only is it under a microscope from your owners and everything else, but now all of Horse Racing Nation and the Twitter followers are studying your every move, like they have all the answers. So you have that to compete with as well.
Okay, because we all want the information, and if anybody out there can provide it for us, that's great. And that includes this show for anybody that look. I can go to horseраcingnation.com and get stats, but this type of show we do gives us an opportunity to actually talk about it, and that's also very important.
Well, I think the other thing too, Greg, is it gives everybody a chance to kind of see behind the scenes what's going on. There's a lot of talking heads out there. And everybody has an opinion, but how many are out there on a day-to-day, living, breathing, seeing it all like we are on this show?
Okay, now before we get into your list, what I want to do is talk about the big news of the day, and because when we did the show 2 weeks ago, we had just talked about how a few hours earlier they had they were in a hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the hearing, the Baffert hearing regarding last year's Medina Spirit Kentucky Derby win, and would he get suspended, with the horse be DQ'd, all of that other stuff. Well, timing is everything, and just before we aired the show, we're recording the show right now, we see the news that, which was not surprising, that Medina Spirit has been officially disqualified from the win. And now Baffert gets a 90-day suspension. Is that what I'm also reading?
So yes and no. So their ruling is a 90-day suspension. He's been disqualified from the purse and been fined $7,500. However, he has the right to appeal. He has 10 days to appeal, and his attorney has said that they will go ahead and appeal. This is almost like the Olympic figure skaters, where the ROC is appealing the figure skating thing, and so she hasn't necessarily been disqualified yet. So even though their official ruling came out 10 months later, but it did come out, it's still not official. I know everybody wants to make it official. It's still not official. He can challenge this thing now. It would go to the Kentucky State, and then it would eventually, he can even challenge it up to the Supreme Court. Whether or not the Supreme Court decides to hear the case is another story. But he could, rightfully appeal all the way to the Supreme Court if he wanted to.
Does that mean that Bob Baffert is going to be able to bring his horses to Churchill Downs?
So as of now, no. Now, when they appeal, they can try and get a writ that kind of supersedes the suspension. He gets a stay of the suspension and stuff like that. However, Kentucky and Churchill Downs is owned by CDI, Churchill Downs Incorporated, which is a publicly traded company, and they have the right to deny entry to whoever they want.
Okay.
So there shouldn't be any reason why He should be allowed to without this thing getting overturned. If it was overturned, then it's different. But without this being overturned, as of now, everything remains in place as far as that's concerned. So while he's not suspended, and he'll have the favorite in the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn on Saturday, that I'm sure you'll discuss with Jonathan later on this week. That horse still is not eligible to get any points, and so long as you don't get any points, you're not going to the Derby.
Okay. Is that Messier?
No, this is Newgrange.
Okay.
Newgrange.
All
So
right.
he has, as we'll see, and this is interesting with the point system, because he's not getting any points. The horses that win don't earn any, but the horses that are second aren't getting the winner's share of the points. So, in other words, if Newgrange were to win on Saturday, there just wouldn't be 50 points awarded. So that's a spot that would normally be dedicated to that winner. Now that spot still remains open. So
Okay.
it's interesting, and as we've gotten closer now, I think Team Baffert was hopeful and maybe optimistic based on some stuff that they had found out through the labs and stuff like that, that this thing was going to be overturned immediately. Now we're, like you said, we're in the nitty gritty with the 50, 100-point races. Now the owners have to decide: am I sticking with Bob Baffert? Am I sticking with the Hall of Famer, the guy that's taking me to the dance? Or am I going to move the horse to another trainer and try and run in the Kentucky Derby and get points for sure? I'm not going to wait and see how this plays out with the lawyers.
All right. Well, let's put this in. Let's put this in your shoes then. Let's say that you have these really good horses that you are training, and you're not going to be able to go to the Derby because of the same type of suspension, and you have the opportunity. You tell me, do you have the opportunity, or how would you feel in that situation? Would you say to yourself, I don't want to be the one that's going to hold back this really good horse and the opportunity to win a Kentucky Derby, so I am going to do whatever I can do to talk the owner into being, hey, look, I think it's okay, don't worry about me. Let's move this horse over to this training barn over here. This is a very qualified trainer, and that's the way I think it should go. Or you tell me.
Well,
How would you handle it?
The thing about the Kentucky Derby is it's different than any other sport, any other time. And the reason is the participants are only eligible once. So if you're in college basketball, you have 4 years. If you stay in school all 4 years, you have 4 years to make it.
Yes.
If you're in the Super Bowl, you can challenge every year. NBA, LeBron James changes teams every second year, whatever. So they always have another opportunity. And while trainers and owners and jockeys have a chance every year, the specific horse is only eligible this one time. And so with that in mind, if you have a horse who you think is precocious enough, is good enough, is talented enough to make the Derby, you have to do what you have to do. And I think at this point, we will start seeing some changes made. Now, owners might say, they don't want to do it, this, that, the other. But at the end of the day, I think the better ones. Look, he's not suspended from anything. And even if he were to be suspended 90 days, nobody else from the team is suspended. Jimmy Barnes, his assistant, has been with him a long time. He's got grooms that have been with him for 30 years, riders that have been with him forever. So I don't think you'll see an exodus stage left of everybody leaving him. I mean, we've seen already throughout this process of Medina Spirit being positive for almost a year, his owners have stood by his side. So do I think that there will be some changes? Yes, I do. Will it be all of them? No. And you'll see Newgrange, like I said, he runs for a lot of money on Saturday. Actually, in Saudi Arabia in the desert, he'll start one of the horses in the Saudi Arabia Derby. That horse might move on to the UAE Derby, which is in Dubai. He's not suspended over there. So there will be people that will stay with him. And look, he's made a lot of money for a lot of people for years. He is the face of horse racing, right? Yes. I mean, everybody knows Bob Baffert. When you talk to a regular fan who just knows about horse racing, he knows about the Kentucky Derby, he knows about the Breeders' Cup, maybe. Who do you know? You know Bob Baffert. Maybe you know Todd Pletcher. He's won a few of these, right? Maybe you know Steve Asmussen. He's come close. But you know Bob Baffert. He's won 7 of these, maybe 6 with an asterisk at this point. But nobody's won more than him. Nobody's better at preparing horses for the Kentucky Derby than him. And really what this does, more so than anything else, even if those horses are moved, if I'm a trainer of one of the horses on my top list or one of the top contenders on the Derby points list right now, even though it might not be the circumstances that you want to see it, I am going to have a little bit more confidence because no matter what happens, if Bob Baffert's not in the Kentucky Derby, I have a better shot at winning it.
Yeah, I can see that.
It would almost be like saying Nick Saban is not allowed to coach. Well,
Yeah.
if Nick Saban's sitting out, the SEC championship,
Sure.
I feel better about my team.
Yeah. Well, and that's why. And by the way, is there a time? Like
No,
there isn't.
No.
So you can.
No, it's the government.
It's just a matter of the horse. Once the horse enters Churchill Downs, Bob Baffert cannot basically train the horse. That's it.
Well,
That's
I mean, at this point now, it's to get points, right? And as we said earlier in the show, you got to get your points.
Yeah, you got to get the points first. Yeah.
So you can't. I don't think you can't be with Bob, switch for a day, go back to Bob, switch again. Like if you're gonna go for the
got
point,
it. It's got to happen before the points get accumulated.
Yeah, at this point,
got it.
You're gonna have to move Barnes, compete in that race, and stay with that trainer at least through the duration of the Kentucky Derby.
Got it. So we'll know as early as
you're
this weekend.
You're gonna see. I would think you'll see a lot of moving parts. Look, I mean, basically every week from here on out is one of these big Derby races, and even in a place like you wouldn't even think about it, but in New Mexico, in Sunland Park, there's a race that's a 50-point race that if you win, you qualify. That's a race that Bob Baffert has used in the past. So even a track like that, you're might see some movement.
Okay, now before one more story I wanted to talk about. I'll pop it up here on the screen. But I'm going to give credit to Pollock Report. I'm not sure who Mr. Pollock is, but he has a nice report here about Prat and two other jockeys refused to ride on Santa Anita turf in Sunday's finale. And this was just this past Sunday. We're recording on Monday, the 21st. It says here that a pair of scratches were necessitated in Sunday's finale at Santa Anita when Flavien Prat, Drayden Van Dyke, and Ryan Curtolo. How do you pronounce that name?
Yeah, you got it. Your French is very good. You got it.
Yeah, okay. Declined to ride in the 6-furlong turf contest for maiden 3-year-old fillies. And then Pratt said to me, it's slippery. I didn't feel safe riding. I don't know why it is like this. To me, you can't ride properly. So what was that about?
So, I mean, back up for a little bit of history here. One, it hasn't rained in California in 33 days. So everybody is very confused as to why a track where it hasn't rained is so slippery.
Okay.
So let's start with that.
Yeah.
Further into the backstory is it was a mandatory payout for the pick six. And so a lot of people, especially in California, they chase the pick six, which is where you have to win the last 6 races. You have to win every one of them, right? And if your horse is scratched, you don't get a do-over. You don't get to pick another horse. If you had that horse, you go to the post-time favorite, whether you wanted the horse or not.
Really?
That you're stuck with that horse.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of money on the line. Flavien was on the favorite. Now, there are a few things that could happen here. One, like Drayden Van Dyke, he took off the horse early, and somebody else was able to ride the horse. Daisuke Fukumoto rode the horse. He didn't win, but at least the horse was able to compete. Flavien and Ryan Cortolo took off with 10 minutes to post. It was too late to get another jockey. It's the last race. Some of the other jockeys have already gone home and stuff like that. So they had a scratch, and Flavien's horse was indeed the heavy favorite. And so from a horseman standpoint, I have absolutely no problem with what they did. I think safety comes first and foremost. However, Flavien had already rode 3 or 4 races on the grass prior to this. So it's not like after the first it was good, after the third it was good, after the fifth it was good. The seventh it got a little slippery. So if you have concerns at that point, you have to speak up early on. I think the jockeys together have to, they're in a union. They need to kind of make a decision together. It's a bad look that only 3 of the jockeys said that, the track conditions were no good. If they felt that way, maybe take the last race off the grass. We've seen that happen before in tracks like Gulfstream Park, New York, stuff like that. The jockeys and the management kind of have to work together to make a decision for the safety of the horses. With that not happening, with these 2 jockeys scratching their horses late and not having replacements, to me, the thing that should have happened is that last race should, even if you're going to keep it on the grass, should be considered an all button, as though the race was taken off the grass. And then everybody's alive. The pick 6 becomes a pick 5. If you won the first 5 races, you pay. Will you get paid less? Yes, but at least you get something. Here, you got moved to the favorite, who a lot of people didn't really like, and you ended up losing your wager. This is kind of a continuation of what we saw on Breeders' Cup Friday, when the horse was scratched, wasn't scratched, was the heavy favorite, won the race, and then wasn't considered as a horse in the race. And it just looks like we continue to get things wrong. It's unfortunate because the horse player gets hurt. And I truly believe, and I'm sure, with Jonathan coming on your show all the time, Jonathan is, big time horse player, right? The horse player always seems to get the short end of the stick, and we need the horse player. And I don't think enough people in our industry kind of pound their fist on the desk saying how important the horse player is to us, right? To me, that's the most important thing. You need the horse player. You need their commentary. And what happened yesterday was egregious to the horse player. I have no problem with Flavien Prat and Ryan want to take off late. I think Drayden did the right thing taking off earlier. But at the end of the day, you have to look out for your horse player. It wasn't as though the horse scratched because the horse didn't feel right. The jockey didn't feel comfortable riding, and I don't think that should be a punishable offense, which basically what ends up happening is the horse players get punished by not having that horse. And that's not
you see, if one of the jockeys decide, like you said, maybe a little strange that he decided so late. Okay, so if one jockey makes that decision late, don't you think it's a little coincidence or strange that multiple jockeys kind of all felt the same way? Like, it wasn't like one of them decided 3 hours earlier, because like you said, he had ridden on this turf a few hours earlier, a couple other races. Didn't you find it a little bit stranger that multiple jockeys decided, well, almost like they had to have been talking to each other, obviously?
I think the big thing is it's a lack of leadership in that room. The jockeys, like I said, they do have a union, and the senior members of the jocks room normally are the voices, right, that talk to management, have that relationship with management. Now, Flavien Prat is the leading rider, and so for him to do it is a bigger deal than if it was a rider not of the same ilk. But he doesn't have the voice that Mike Smith or John Velasquez have. And I believe Mike Smith was done for the day. He wasn't there. And John Velasquez had missed his flight back from Oakland. He was in Oakland on Saturday. He was off his mounts on Sunday. So if John Velasquez, especially John Velasquez, because he is such a crucial role to the Jockey Guild, which is their union, if John Velasquez was there, I don't think this happens. I think that John Velasquez goes to management and says, listen, we're not riding the last. Not, I'm going to take off my horse here in the last. We're not riding the last. We don't feel safe. Because, in a sport where the ambulance follows you around while you're riding, okay? People don't understand what horse racing is, where an ambulance is following you every race. Like, can you imagine? You're sitting there and you're riding in your race and you have everything going. You're going 35 miles an hour on a 1,200-pound horse, and you're tight and you're squeezed and everything else. And when you take a peek back behind to see the other horses, you also see the ambulance following you at 30 miles an hour. And you have to just say to yourself, because every jockey's fallen at some point, you have to say to yourself, oh, man, what am I doing? And so its safety is so important. And that's why they need to work together. And I think this is something that needs to be corrected in the overall as well.
All right. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
That was a
here.
soapbox moment of the day, brought to you by Dove.
Yeah, well, give us a few months. Okay, now let me pop this up here because we have Epicenter first. But I'm going to start with Charge It because we didn't talk about Charge It a couple of weeks ago because Charge It was not in the poll, the initial poll. And matter of fact, what I'm also going to do is let me knock out of here, and there's the poll. People could see their poll right there on the screen. Let me see if I can put the poll up.
That's a sexy poll, right?
Okay, so
that's a sexy poll.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. So see, it's very simple. All I got to do is go over here and hit click Charge It, and Charge It. Actually, I picked the wrong horse because this horse is the 16-year-old Charge It. So let me go back because I need to.
He probably will not have an entry this year.
Three-year-old Charge It. This is the Todd Pletcher horse, and the Todd Pletcher horse is just coming off a win last time out, and only 2 races so far for Charge It. So where does Charge It come from? Why do you have Charge It moving in to your top 10 for the first time?
So Charge It actually has run, I believe, the fastest rags and sheet number of any 3-year-old in the country when he broke his maiden last time out. When he ran first time out, he ran a very good race and ran second, just wasn't really cranked up yet. Now he did what he had to do. And look, Todd Pletcher is loaded with 3-year-olds, and he ran fourth in the Risen Star. Obviously, he has Mo Donegal, who we talked about on the last one, but he has some up and comers, and Todd's done this before, especially with Always Dreaming, who was still a maiden as an early 3-year-old and stuff like that. And to me, I think his maiden winners and allowance runners, as we'll see as we move up on the list, are better than the ones that we've seen so far. And he's running out of time. He has other horses. Command Performance is one that comes to mind that was fourth in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but he hasn't run yet. And like I said, we're running out of time for these horses to make an impact. Charge is going to have one shot. He's going to have one crack. This is the Eminem song, one opportunity. And so hopefully, his hooves aren't sweaty. He doesn't have mom spaghetti all over his his body. And in that one crack, I think he's going to have a really good shot. And so Charge It's going to make the list off the impressive maiden win a couple weeks ago.
Before I get into the rest of them, you mentioned Mo Donegal. So Mo Donegal, I believe, is one of the few horses who are that was on your list last time and is not on your list now, even though Mo Donegal won the last race that we.
Well, he ran third. He ran a good third, but he ran.
What was that race?
And that was the Holy Bull.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought.
That White Abruzzo one.
Is that
so? Mo Donegal
was that after we did the poll?
Before.
Before. Okay, so you changed your mind either way. Why was the reason?
He's a horse that I think can be okay. I thought he ran well in the first race. He's going to be he's going to be in everybody else's top 10 list except for mine. I just think that you only have 10 slots, and I just think these 10 horses are better or have a better opportunity to win the Derby. I'm not saying to make the Derby. Look, right now this is to win the Derby, and I think Mo Donegal can run in it. I think he can run well in it, but I don't think he is. He can win it right now.
All right, so it looks like we may see Mo Donegal again at the Wood Memorial. That seems to be, and right now Mo Donegal probably going to need to win that race. You think to get in?
First or second. I mean, he's one of those fringe horses where he has some points already. I think he has 12 points already. So, is it a make or break? No. Does he have to? I think he can run second, but the margin for error is very, very small. And you're going to ship up to New York, where obviously he had success before winning the Remsen as a 2-year-old. But like I said, he's going to come in with only one race before that and only 2 races going into the Derby, and that's a tall task.
Okay, now Shahama.
That's my girl.
Okay, and Shahama was, I believe, when did you have now? 10th?
10.
So you moved Shahama up one. And this is the filly, as you just mentioned. 4 for 4 wins in 4 races, coming off a win in the UAE Oaks, which was just a few days ago. So what about Shahama? When are we going to see Shahama again?
So she'll run next in the UAE Derby on March 26th.
The big one.
We'll be there covering it live for you guys in Dubai. I can't wait to be over there.
When do you leave?
I'll leave the Sunday before.
Okay.
I'll be over there for a week. But the thing with her, she had trouble. She missed the break. She took some kickback, went about her business, and she didn't beat the strongest of fields. But the way she did it and the way she went through the line, I don't think we've seen the best of her yet. I think there's more to come. I think the plan right now is to come to America. The question will be for the Oaks or the Derby. She did get 50 points winning the Oaks, so she's in the Oaks field right now. If she wants to go that way, but she's going to run in the UAE Derby against the boys, and that's a 100-point race. So if she wins that, she'll have her option of taking on the girls or the boys. And the way the race is written in Dubai, she's going to get in with 53.5 kilos. The older horses, there's some Uruguayan, some South American horses that'll carry 60 kilos. So they'll be giving her 6.5, and then the regular 3-year-olds will get in at 58. So she's going to get a lot of weight. I don't know if her regular jockey can even make that weight. We might see a rider change, but she's going to have a big advantage carrying a lot less weight in a race where the boys in Dubai have not separated themselves. We'll see some horses from America go over. We'll see some horses from England and Japan. But to me, she's the favorite in the UAE Derby right now. And I think all roads go through her as far as the Middle East and controlling her own destiny.
Well, that would be something else because we talked about how hard. So far it's 0 UAE Derby winners winning the Kentucky Derby. So imagine you have a UAE Derby winner who's a filly, and then has to win the Derby. That would be really behind the 8 ball. But first things first, let's see if she can go out there and upset the boys, because that would still be what kind of an upset would that be considered?
It depends who shows up, but I mean, I don't think right now it wouldn't. To me, it wouldn't be an upset. To others, maybe
so you
it
think
would
the
be.
odds would be pretty decent? Like,
I mean, if the horses showed up who I think are pointing for the race right now, I would put her at 3-1 to win the UAE Derby. So I mean, obviously, one of the
not
choices.
a long shot at all. Then, got it. Okay.
No.
Golden Glider is next. Golden Glider was 7th last week, 2 weeks ago, so moves to 8th. Mark Case. Now this horse last time out was just between our last show.
Yes.
Finished 5th in the Sam F. Davis to Classic Causeway.
So I'm sure that everybody probably didn't have them on their list, and I'm sure that if they did, he's off their list. I think in the early stages with the 10-point races, and you'll see this on a couple of the other horses that we have on this list as well, you're allowed a hiccup. Yes. You're allowed one bump in the road. And if you're going to get that bump in the road, it's almost like I equate it to college basketball, where it's better to lose early, or college football. It's better to lose early than to lose late. If you're 10-1, but you lost on week 1, you can still make the playoffs. If you're 10-1 and you lost in week 8, you're probably ranked too far behind.
Not every horse is going to go into the Kentucky Derby undefeated.
No, Golden Glider had an awful trip. Okay. He was squeezed between horses, didn't have anywhere to go. It was only his 3rd career start. I liked how he finished. Look, there are horses that finished ahead of him that are on people's lists, and some of those horses ran well. But I want to give Golden Glider another opportunity, and I think we'll see him next in the Tampa Derby on March 19th in just a few weeks. And, Mark Cassie's a guy who we can see this horse run twice more if he's close on points. So, he's going to get some more experience. I still think the future is ahead of him, not behind him. The horse got a loose lead last time, and I do think that the horse can improve. So I'm not giving up yet on Golden Glider.
Okay, next up is going to be Classic Causeway. And we just talked about Classic Causeway because Classic Causeway was the winner of the Sam F. Davis race. You did not have Classic Causeway in your poll 2 weeks ago. This is a Brian Lynch horse who's been in the money all 4 races. As you can see here, got 2 wins. Broke his mate in the very first race. Got the win at the Sam F. Davis, which was the only 2nd win in 4 attempts. And it looks like we may see this horse again in the Tampa Bay Derby in a few weeks. So what about Classic Causeway?
I'm not from Missouri, but I spent some time in there, and he was a member of the Show Me State. Okay, Classic Causeway I thought was brilliant as a 2-year-old, was very, very fast. I didn't know if he'd be able to kind of stretch out his speed and do it the right way, and he did. He was much the best, the easiest of winners for Ired Ortiz, broke out on top, just went about his business and never looked back. And look, I would think he can probably get 1.25 miles. It does. The question with him, and the question ultimately with Epicenter, is do they need the lead to win? That's how they've won their races so far. And if they both need the lead to win, unfortunately, come the first Saturday in May, neither of them will win because they'll duel each other into submission. So I like him. He's made the list now. I think he's certainly a contender, but you have the but still with Classic Causeway.
Okay. Now let's go to a horse that lost for me on Saturday, and that's because John beat me with Epicenter, and that was Zandon. And we see Zandon here finishing third in that race. This is a horse being trained by Chad Brown. Look, when you break your maiden in your first race, and then your races 2 and 3 are Grade 2 races, that's pretty good company so far for Zandon. And right now, you still have Zandon 6th. Zandon was 4th a few weeks ago. It looks like we may see Zandon in the Bluegrass in April.
So my concern with Zandon is he's not exactly the best made horse. He has some longer pasterns that I don't think he's a horse you can kind of pound on in the morning time. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of Norman the Invasion, a horse that Chad Brown last took to fairgrounds, didn't work out in the Risen Star, rushed for points in the Wood, and then the horse just didn't have anything in the Derby. I think Zandon's a really nice horse. I think he had a troubled trip, nobody's fault. But now you're going to take him from fairgrounds. You're going to ship back. Again, this is what we're talking about shipping. You're going to ship back to Florida. You're going to ship to Kentucky. Another new surface, another new surface. For, like I said, for a horse that you can't really train really, really hard, it's tough to win the Kentucky Derby like that. Now, he might. He's brilliant. He's shown a lot of ability so far. And like you said, just a few starts, only 3 career starts. But the sledding's going to get tougher now. And I want to make sure that he can stay together. It's the same reason why Smile Happy, who was second on the list, who's a really, really nice horse, isn't in my top 10 because his father, Run Happy, they've been very fragile horses, his offspring. And I don't know that he can stay together. Now, he certainly looks like he can. He's a sturdy, well-made horse. I saw him walking in the afternoon on Twitter. Kenny McPeak does a great job on his Twitter. He's definitely a Twitter follow for sure, Kenny McPeak. And Robbie Alvarado, the now retired jockey, was walking him in the afternoon, and they loved the horse. And he's back on the farm now in Ocala. He's going to go back to Gulfstream. No specific plans for him yet, and that concerns me a little bit. Even though Kenny's done a great job and wants to win the Derby just as bad as Steve Asmussen, not having a specific plan yet is interesting. Unless he's just keeping the cards close to the vest, which is certainly possible.
Okay. So and if you, by the way, if you do see, like on this particular website, we'll say that they believe, let's see, what is it again? That the probable is the Bluegrass. Where are they getting their information from, do you think?
So they have a crack staff of reporters at Horse Racing Nation, and they kind of scour the World Wide Web. I think a lot of the information they have came from Marcus Hirsch from the Daily Racing Forum, who did a really informative piece on Sunday afternoon. He talked to the contender, some of the trainers that competed over the weekend, and that's kind of what they have disseminated upon him as their information. But look, everything is a moving part at this point.
Anything can happen. All right, now let's move on to Epicenter. We talked about Epicenter already, and here's Epicenter. This is the Steve Asmussen horse who is coming off the win at the Risen Star. And that is win number 3 out of 5, 3 in the last 4 races, and was runner-up to Call Me Midnight in the Grade 3 Lecomte. So right now, this Epicenter seems to be hitting stride. And again, first in points because that's the first 50-point race that was available. And you had Epicenter 8th a couple of weeks ago, and now 5th.
So we move him up. And look, he was the easiest of winners. I mean, if you want to win a race and be on the Derby trail and do everything the right way, that's how you draw it up. That's how, when you have the chalkboard and everything else, it went scarily according to plan.
And the sheets were really nice in that race. We talked about it with John on Friday, and the sheet line was really good, and it was headed exactly where you want to see it headed. I can imagine. I would have just guessed that the horse. Look, if it gets a 10 or a 9, then that's exactly what you want to see. Because I think he had back-to-back 11s heading into the race on Saturday.
Yeah, and I do believe he got a 9.5. So he's right on path with where he wants to be. The thing with him is very similar to Classic Causeway, though, right? In all 3 of those wins, it was wire-to-wire victories. When he got beat, and he ran well in the Lecomte last time, but he had to go a little bit faster, right? It was 3/5 of a second faster than he went in the Risen Star. Well, in the Derby, it's the Derby, right? horses are going to press, are going to send, things are going to happen. So, that's the concern with Epicenter. His pedigree, look, not this time is a stallion that I've really believed in, his father, but he retired at 2. So we never really got a chance to find out how far he would go or what he would do. So far, his first horses are 4-year-olds now. Obviously, didn't have anybody in the Derby last year. Will they go a mile and a quarter? Will they see it out? That'll be the question. And while he is a definite contender, I can't have him any higher than I have him on my list right now, with just too much other stuff going on at this point.
Okay. And Louisiana Derby, I believe, is the probable next stop.
Now, the interesting thing with that is this weekend we're going to see the Saudi Cup, which is the $20 million race in Saudi Arabia, and Jockey Joel Rosario will be out there for Steve Asmussen riding Midnight Bourbon. And the interesting thing is, the Dubai World Cup is the same day as the Louisiana Derby. They're both March 26th. So if Midnight Bourbon were to run well, if he were to run first or second for the $20 million Saudi Cup, do they move him on to Dubai? And if so, where does Joel Rosario, who fits Epicenter so well, where does he end up? Does he end up in Dubai, chasing the millions of riches and the golden whip, or does he stay in Louisiana and try and get his second Kentucky Derby? That's all kind of to be determined. And then, he didn't ride Epicenter in the Gun Runner. I think Brian Hernandez rode him. Maybe they go back to Brian, but I think he fits him really well. And that'll be the interesting thing as we play Jockey Roulette as well on the top 10 list.
Yeah, you can only ride one horse in the Derby. Okay, next up is White Barrio. And White Barrio, this was the horse that actually beat Modonegal in the Holy Bull. And right now, 6th in points because that wasn't a 50-point race at the time. This is a Safi Joseph horse. You had 3rd a couple of weeks ago. You have 4th this week. And right now, 3 wins out of 4. And it looks like maybe we see White Barrio again in the Florida Derby.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, he's a horse that's done little wrong, had a terrible trip in the one defeat. He's certainly been well thought of. He trains like a good horse in the morning time. Safi Joseph hasn't really had the best of luck in the Derby trail yet, but he's still a young trainer. He's running a one Derby so far, but that was with the kind of backwards Derby. It was really they ran the Belmont first during COVID and stuff like that. He's certainly been in a lot of big races in his home country where he's from. I think he's from Barbados, and him and his father's at the barn with him every day. They've mapped out a plan to get this horse to the first Saturday in May, and we're going to see if they can execute it. But certainly the horse has done nothing wrong. His performance, I thought, in the Holy Bull was a breakout performance, and not really getting talked up enough. Yes, Modonegal was closing. Yes, Simplification had an awful trip and missed the break and was running on late, but nobody was going to beat White Barrio. They could have gone around there twice. So to me, you talk about, gaining confidence. I think the barn is confident in the horse. I think the horse is confident in the horse. And I look for the future to continue to be bright for White Barrio.
Next up is Rattle and Roll. And Rattle and Roll right now is, let's see, 2 for 4, but won the last 2 races, including the Breeders' Futurity. That's a Grade 1 race at Keeneland, and that was in October. So we haven't seen this horse yet. It looks like we may see this horse in the Fountain of Youth. That's the schedule probability for Horse Racing Nation. And you had Rattle and Roll 2nd a couple of weeks ago, 3rd this time around.
He needs to start rattling and rolling, right? I mean, he hasn't run yet this year. Very similar to some of these other horses where just run the 1 time or 2 times. But Kenny is confident. He has a plan mapped out. He's going to run the Fountain of Youth and then wants to wheel him back in 3 weeks in the Louisiana Derby against Epicenter. And he says that the longer, the better. So I understand kind of not wanting to run him back in the mile racer, mile 16th. The Kentucky Derby is a mile and a quarter. Maybe he's a true distance horse. So he's going to stay there at least until Fountain of Youth Day, and we'll see, what happens in the Fountain of Youth, and we'll move forward off of that.
All right. Next up is going to be Emmanuel. And let's see. Go ahead and move on here with Emmanuel. There it is. Type that in. Excellent. Emmanuel was first on your list 2 weeks ago. This is the Pletcher horse, who is now second on your list this time around because we have a nice little surprise horse that has just flown up your poll from a couple of weeks ago. But first is Emmanuel, 2 for 2, so hasn't done anything wrong. First race in 2022. That was a win in Tampa. Excuse me, that was a win. Was that in Tampa, that race? Yes,
Yeah.
that was in Tampa. So this is a Florida horse who will be potentially racing in the Fountain of Youth, looking to go 3 for 3 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the people well within the Todd Pletcher barn, this is their Derby horse. This is the one. And when you start out with 100 or however many 2-year-olds he starts out with, and you get closer and closer, he's had certainly more success with others so far. This horse is kind of following the Always Dreaming plan, but they know when they have a nice one, and they think this one's a nice one. And the thing that really sealed the deal for me was Luis Saez had the opportunity to go ride in Tampa in the Sam F. Davis. He could have rode a couple of nice horses, including maybe Classic Causeway, and elected not to go because he knew that, he thought that Emmanuel was his Derby horse. He went to Louisiana this week and rode Todd's horse, who's kind of his, D or E string, to stay in the Todd Pletcher barn. But, he's breezed this horse. He knows the horse. The barn's very confident in the horse. And look, they're sky high right now. They have the best horse in the world, and Life is Good. They have the best turf horse in the country. In Colonel Liam, they're both going to go to Dubai on March 26th, and maybe they have one of the best 3-year-olds in Emmanuel. But look, the rubber's going to meet the road, and he's going to have to show up and against what will be a really salty field in the Fountain of Youth in just 2 weeks' time.
How rare is it for you to train a horse that actually exceeds the actual training compared to the racing? How rare is that? Sort of like a practice player or somebody who doesn't practice well, but get him in the game, and he does things that that's why I had him as the number 2, because he's practicing, and the guy who's number 1 just looks better in practice. But hey, you get him out on the field and the lights are on, and that's just a completely different athlete. How rare is that in horse racing?
Well, it's more rare the other way, right? So we have our favorite term, morning glory, right? Which means, in the morning time, they'll beat anybody. And then you put them in the starting gate in the afternoon, and those are the horses that are the heavy favorites and never hit the board. And, the tout horse and this guy told me, his butcher said that this horse is live today and everything. And they never win. And it's not because the butcher's lying or the pizza guy's lying. It's because they can't match the afternoon what happens in the morning time. And you see that a lot more than the others with these horses, especially with the young horses. What you want to see is them kind of figuring it out and putting it all together, and you'll see them change. There's certain things that you can see in their training. There's certain things you can see in the workouts. You want to see them finishing down the lane. There's a great website, xbtv.com, which obviously they've done a lot of work in the racing forever. But one of the things that they've really done over the last few years is they've gotten their hands on some workouts. And a lot of these horses on the list, you can see their workouts on XBTV. You type in the search engine and the horse's name and stuff like that. And especially on Todd Pletcher, where he trains at Palm Beach Downs, it's a little off the beaten path. It's not a racetrack. There's, I think, only about 10 barns there, and 5 of them are his, and 2 other ones are old assistants of his, like George Weaver. But sometimes he allows some access, and you see some of these horses breezing over there. And Emmanuel is one of those horses where you see it and you believe it. And look, he's won the Derby twice before. When you're a guy like Todd Pletcher, who's now in the Hall of Fame, he's won almost every race there is to win. This is what you gear up for, right? And this is why, if Bob Baffert, kind of bringing everything full circle, if Bob Baffert isn't able to run in the Derby this year, it'll be maybe that slice of humble pie, because this is all Bob Baffert wants. And while Todd Pletcher has really nice horses and loves racing and is great at what he does, this is what he wants. When you're at the airport and you run into a guy, the first, oh, you're a trainer? Have you won the Derby before? Oh, yeah. How many times have you won it? And so for Todd at this point, it's almost like ring chasing, right? He wants another ring. He wants a third Kentucky Derby. And then his first Preakness, he's actually never won the Preakness, which is I always find to be fascinating. But he wants the Derby, and so he's going to do everything he can to get these horses in the Derby. And if he feels like, and the team feels like Emmanuel is their number one, then I'm going to ride with them.
All right, and then finally we're going to go with a horse that was in your rankings a couple of weeks ago, but didn't expect, or at least you wouldn't think that this horse would make this kind of a move from 9th to 1st, but that is exactly what Cyberknife did. And you're going to have to explain as I pop up here Cyberknife and take a look a little bit at Cyberknife's background here. This is a Brad Cox trained horse who is coming off a win just a few days ago in an allowance optional claiming race. Okay, 2 wins in the last 3. Looks like we might see this horse again at the Louisiana Derby next month. What is it about Cyberknife that has caught your eye?
Well, look, speed in this game, speed kills, right? And it's so important to have tactical speed and to put yourself in the race, not as much as need the lead, like an Epicenter, like a Classic Causeway, but a horse that can put themselves where they need to be. And in all of his races, other than the last race in the Lecomte, he's done that. In the Lecomte, he kind of got hung out to dry, got squeezed between horses, put himself in an uncomfortable position, still made a huge move around the turn, and then just kind of, faded a little bit. And so, what we had said when we did our initial top 10 list, we said, listen, this horse, when the light bulb goes on, can be anything. And, he's shown that precocity since he was a baby, since he was being broke on the farm at Susie Montaigne's in Ocala, since he went to Brad Cox, and the team had him at Keeneland and at Saratoga and at Churchill. And look, he's not an easy horse to deal with, but when he puts it all together, the rest was going to be history. And while he was still not all the way there in the race on Saturday, he's shown that the light bulb, at least the light bulb is now, the switch has been turned on. Is it an LED light that's going to shine bright for years and years to come? I'm saying yes, right? He needed that race on Saturday to get himself back on track, to get himself in that spot. Look, he's the same thing like Charge It and like some of these others, Emmanuel, that, he's going to have one shot to make the Derby, right? Whether that be the Louisiana Derby next, whether that be the Bluegrass or the Wood or wherever he ends up, he'll have one shot, and he needs to be first or second. But I'm not trading places with anybody if I'm the connections of him. And it looks like Brad Cox has now won his first Kentucky Derby if the suspension and disqualification holds up. So Brad Cox has run in the Derby once before. He's won it. So he's 1 for 1 in his career. You can add that to the accolades of the 2-time reigning trainer of the year. And I think he can make it 2 for 2 with Cyberknife. So will he be on anybody else's number 1? No. Will he be in the top 10 for others? Maybe not. But listen, this show is about being correct, not being popular. And we're going to ride with Cyberknife all the way through the first Saturday.
Yeah, I got screwed out of that, by the way, because I actually picked the horse that finished second in the Kentucky Derby on our show last year. And of course,
so give yourself
I don't get my money for that.
Give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a pat on the back.
I did on the show a few times, so but nobody cared. That was the horse actually that was, I forget, there was something about the horse that he was like a favorite, and then all of a sudden I think he didn't perform as well in the race.
Mandaloon, yeah, he was terrible in Louisiana Derby.
The odds went from like 18 to 1 or something like that in the Derby. Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of the underappreciated stepchild, where with the central quality in the barn for Brad Cox, all eyes were on him. But he trained so well out of that Louisiana Derby, and he was the rare exception of he had done so well prior to running in races like the Lecomte and the Risen Star, where he had earned enough points to get in, despite the hiccup in the Louisiana Derby running 6th. And look, will that happen this year? I don't know. Look, you never know how many points you're going to need to get in, but he was able to do it, and he got in, and he ran a banger of a race. I mean, just absolutely top notch. And uh, he almost ran that old the old cliche, ran too good to lose. And in this situation, he's going to get rewarded for it maybe at the end of the day. But you look, knowing Brad Cox, this isn't what Brad wants. Brad doesn't want to win by DQ. Yeah. Brad doesn't want the WWF count out and you got your hand raised in victory. He wants the pinfall. He wants the 1, 2, 3, and we'll see if Cyberknife can get that done for him.
Yeah, because that's exactly, and John and I talk about it all the time, and you just mentioned it. One of the easiest things to tell people when you're handicapping any sport is to always draw a line through one event in that athlete's career, whether it's a game for a team or if it's an individual, just a bad week. It happens. And if you draw that one line through, it all the rest of the bio looks a lot different.
Yeah, correct.
So, okay, Chad, great job as always. We will talk to you again next Monday, unless there's another virus that I'm just not counting on. But I get sick once every 4 or 5 years, so unless now I'm getting older, that starts to shrink. I don't think we're gonna have any problem, unless of course you're busy. But the great thing about putting these shows together is even if we wind up having to skip a day or two, we can always come back and hopefully we'll be on the rest of the way through to the Kentucky Derby and beyond, because there's a lot to talk about.
Greg, listen, I give you the sickness, the 10 point.
That
was a 10-point.
That was
race.
the line drawn through my bio.
Put a line through it. All right, but now we gotta go strong. We can't miss now going to the first Saturday in May. Every week, every workout, everything is so important. So we got to stay tuned. And look, it's going to be an exciting run, as it always is, to the Kentucky Derby, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts. So we got to stay tuned and check out where we are.
We'll have to come up with some interviews too. That would be nice. See if we can get a guest. Maybe we could surprise people with like a guest or two along the way. So
absolutely.
Yeah. But either way, we'll definitely be here each Monday all the way through. And again, it's not just the Derby. You got the entire season, and this is a great time of year to get started. So, Chad, appreciate it. And don't forget, everybody out there listening and watching, John and I will be back on Friday. So don't forget patreon.com/PrimeSN. See, do I have that in here? I think I have that little promo in here. I have to have it a little bit more handy next time. But anyway, it's pretty simple. You can actually see it right there across the screen. I have the ticker there. Patreon.com/PrimeSN. And we'll talk to John about this week's races, because I believe there's one Derby prep race this weekend. Am I correct on that?
Well, there's two if you want to go worldwide, right? We go Saudi Arabia this weekend as well. Big races, a lot of money on the line. Bob Baffert will have one of the favorites in Pinehurst over there in the Saudi Derby. And, of course, the Rebel, the field is now out, where at Oaklawn, good field of horses assembled, where, once again, Bob Baffert has the favorite there as well in Newgrange. It's Bob Baffert's world, although maybe not in Kentucky.
Sounds good. Chad, appreciate it. Talk to you next Monday.
You got it. Thanks, Greg.